Today on the show, Beto O'Rourke and Obamacare are being torn down by Democrats? Yeah, apparently so.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, I have to tell you, I think the Democrats are going to go down in flames in 2020. And I say this not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, not as anybody that has any kind of particular political allegiance. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know that I believe Republicans and Democrats, this is like Coke and Pepsi to me. Just brown, sugary, nutritionally useless water that you should probably avoid if given the choice. And the reason I say that I think the Democrats are going to go down in flames, contrary to what a lot of people would think. A lot of people would think that Trump, a lot of the folks that voted for him in the first place might be kind of over his shenanigans, and they might... there was that tip of the iceberg. You remember this? It was the tip of the iceberg that put Trump over the top. And that tip of the iceberg was, interestingly enough, represented by minorities and the very poor. Now, traditionally, minorities and the very poor have voted Democrat. And minorities and the very, very poor did vote Democrat in the last election. But he managed to get enough of them onto his side. It was an historical amount of minorities and the very poor that voted for Donald Trump. And that was the tip of the iceberg, some would say, that put him over the top. And a lot of people would say, that tip of the iceberg won't have noticed any real change in their daily life, so they're going to start voting Democrat anytime now, and, well, Trump will be done in 2020. I happen to disagree. Not because I'm a Trump supporter, not because of any sort of fondness for what Trump has become since he hit the White House. I'm saying this because, and this is a lesson to all of us in general as a society, the Democrats cannot seem to get on the same page and get out of their own way. Beto O'Rourke was the hope. Beto O'Rourke was the hope. And a lot of people said they were happy when he lost to Ted Cruz. Now, if he'd beaten Ted Cruz, it obviously would have been a symbolic victory. A Democrat being someone like Ted Cruz in the state of Texas, that would have said the times they are changing. Well, as it turns out, as much as he managed to pick up a full head of steam and gain a lot of publicity and notoriety, Beto O'Rourke did not beat Ted Cruz. And a lot of people went, good, this frees him up to run for president of these United States of America. He will be our next president, Beto 2020. It was basically what people started saying the moment he lost to Ted Cruz. And well, that didn't last too long. And this is what I mean by people's inability to get on the same page. This is what I mean by people's inability to come together and support one another. Beto went from being the golden child of the Democratic Party to being vilified for some stuff that he can't do anything about. Why is Beto O'Rourke fallen from the heavens? Why is he no longer the anointed one of the Democratic Party? He's too white, he's too male, he's too privileged. Yeah. The Democratic primary is going to be a thing that will be interesting to watch. It will get ugly, and there will be, I'm just going to throw this out there. I think there will be more identity politics played upon in the Democratic primaries than ever before. There was a CNN reporter who ripped Beto in a piece for his excellent adventure that, and I quote, drips with white male privilege. He's just roaming around finding himself jobless to figure out if he wants to lead the free world. And you know what? According to this woman, Nia Malika Henderson, if Beto O'Rourke wasn't a white male, he would never be allowed to do this. Yeah. She said, and I quote, "Imagine this, a 46-year-old former congresswoman and mother of 3 who just lost a Senate bid to one of the most despised incumbents sets off on a road trip adventure to clear her head. She Instagrams part of her trip to the dentist. She gives a 2-hour interview to the Washington Post where she shows no real knowledge of policy. Like a first-year college student, she pontificates on whether the Constitution is still a thing that matters after all these many years. And then she writes a stream of consciousness diary entry where she is all in her sad and confused feelings over something. This is Beto O'Rourke's navel-gazing, self-involved rollout of a possible presidential campaign. Oprah Winfrey's couch is next. This could never, ever be a woman. O'Rourke, 46, we are told, is Obama but white. Because of his fundraising prowess, he raised nearly $80 million in his loss to Senator Ted Cruz. He skateboards, he listens, he connects on the internet, and Jack Kerouac style, he roams around jobless. Does he not need a job? To find himself and figure out if he wants to lead the free world. By the way, if you're just joining us, you need to understand something. These are not my words. This is not my indictment of Beto O'Rourke's political career. This is someone tearing him a new one from his own side of the political fence. This is Nia Malika Henderson writing for CNN. These are the folks that are supposed to be on his side. This is why the Democratic primaries are going to be very interesting. And it seems like identity politics are going to play into this in a way that is unlike anything that we've ever seen in the past. So just clearing that up. If you're just joining us, these are not my words. These are the words of the folks on Beto O'Rourke's side. Jack Kerouac style, he roams around jobless. Does he not need a job? To find himself and figure out if he wants to lead the free world. This is a luxury no woman or even minority in politics could ever have. But O'Rourke, tall, handsome, white, and male, has this latitude to be anything and do anything. His privilege even allows him to turn a loss to the most despised candidate of the cycle into a launching pad for the White House run. Does she make a valid point? Could a female or any minority turn a loss for the White House into turn a loss against Ted Cruz into a run for the White House? I don't know, but that's what the folks on his own side are saying as they so quickly tear him down. They built him up like he was the second coming. And now, well, because he's too privileged, too white, and too male, he is not the guy for them. Like I said, the Democratic primaries, oh man, pop some popcorn, get ready. It's going to be very interesting times. And it's sad because, well, none of this should matter.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So yeah, like I said, the Democratic primaries and the run-up to, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. What's going on the right and what will be going on the right as we get closer to election time in 2020 will be equally as entertaining in its own way. But the Democratic primaries are going to be very, very interesting because, like I said, they don't seem to be able in any way, shape, or form to get on the same page. And I say they, again, just to clarify the situation, not as a Republican, not as a libertarian, not as anything. I feel like I constantly have to chuck this disclaimer out there. But I'm a bit of a free thinker. And by the way, that sounds like the move of a D-bag saying I'm a free thinker. But I kind of am. In that, I don't feel chained to any one political party. And you know what? America's fantastic. America's got a lot of great things going for it. But one thing that bums me the hell out about America is the idea of the individual is not a super celebrated thing. Now, this is a country that was founded on the idea of individual liberty. And America as a whole, whether it be politically or from a societal standpoint, has a problem with individuals, has a problem with outsiders, has a problem with people that they don't understand, has a problem with people that they can't easily categorize, has a problem with music that is difficult to digest. And it's not the same all over the world. America does a pretty good hit job on the idea of individuality. I'll give you a perfect example. When I was a kid, I was in this band. You and I have talked about it a little bit in the past, but it was all sorts of things. It was a screaming punk rock band. It involved a lot of sort of like programming and beats that we made in the studio in conjunction with live drums. It involved big, loud, heavy, raucous guitars. And it also involved keyboards and samplers and all this sort of thing. And I don't know, I think the kindest way I've ever heard it described was by someone who went, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is like The Prodigy meets the Chemical Brothers meets Soundgarden meets Pantera meets Sick of It All meets the Hard-Ons. That's actually a name of a band. I'm not cursing. They're from Australia. They're a punk rock group. They're awesome. Meets Green Day meets the Sex Pistols. We were all these things. We were hip hop, we were metal, we were punk rock, we were dance music. And when we were in England and in Europe, people went, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's dance music, it's metal music, it's rap music, it's all these things. This is fantastic. How many styles are you going to throw in a blender? Keep bringing it. The more we brought to the table creatively, the more we were celebrated in England and in Europe. However, by stark contrast, when we got to America, radio stations and record labels and folks like that went, it's the Chemical Brothers, it's Soundgarden, it's metal, it's punk rock, it's hip hop. And we went, yeah, pretty great, right? And they went, no, what is it? How are people going to understand this? How are people going to feel comfortable with this? How are we going to sell this to radio stations? How are we going to put this in an easy to reconcile box? Individuality is not really sort of celebrated and respected in America the way it should be, considering we are a country founded on many things, among which is the idea of individual liberty. So, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there's no room for free thinking and rugged individualism in America. Take this show. Take this show. We don't fall down on the right or the left. Honestly, I just consider my job to be bringing people together so they can talk and learn from each other. If I can put a bunch of different people that think differently in a room together, whether it be a virtual room that is this radio show or an actual room in person, and get people to understand each other and get along and sort of maybe realize that just because the other person voted differently than them, they're not a devil and they don't hate America, then my job is done. But, like I said, there's not that much room for individual liberty in a country that was founded on this stuff. And, man, like I said, I guess I'm a bit of a free thinker. So it is as an observer, not as someone who's into partisan politics, that I look at what's going on with the Democratic Party and go, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Pop some freaking popcorn. They're going to be ripping each other to shreds. Case in point, Obamacare. This is going to be a linchpin of anyone's campaign. But Joe Biden has sort of started attacking Obamacare for saying the middle class goes to bed every night worried about a health crisis that will bankrupt them. This is all part of the Democrats' plan to, I think, try and move toward single-payer Medicare for all. But something that they were only too proud to hang their hat on is now kind of the enemy. And there's still going to be people that are very much in favor of Obamacare. There's still people that are going to think, I just kind of got situated with my health care. I finally sort of understand what's going on. I think I'm okay. I'm not as worried about dying in the street as I used to be. Then Trump comes along and, well, there's all these other question marks. And now the Democrats want to tear it all down. Can we just have one thing that we can understand? As soon as we're comfortable, as soon as we understand something, as soon as we're set up with health care, someone comes along to kick it over. Which is, like I said, what makes it interesting that Joe Biden, ostensibly one of the architects of Obamacare, is now attacking Obamacare for saying that the middle class goes to bed every night worried about a health crisis that will bankrupt them. And even Donald Trump has said, single payer, Medicare for all situation might not be bad. Donald Trump has said this. And it freaked a lot of people on the right out. But nevertheless, it creates a whirlwind of what the hell is the right thing to do. And it's kind of scary with the healthcare stuff because, well, this is healthcare. This is a difference between life and death. This is a difference between treatment and not treatment. This is some very real stuff. But it becomes part of a political urinating contest. Case in point, Obama, Romney. Romney sort of came up with Obamacare. Happened in Massachusetts first. It's called Romneycare. And essentially, Obamacare was, it was like they slowed that record down and copied it note for note in many ways. And then when Obama was pushing Obamacare and they were up against each other in the presidential election, Romney said, I know it works for Massachusetts, but it doesn't work for the country. Brr. Because, well, that was a position he was going to take because he had to fight. And he had to tear down something that in his heart of hearts, he probably believed wasn't that bad of an idea because of some political posturing. Meanwhile, folks are wondering, oh crap, am I going to be able to pay for my cancer treatment? Which is why the Democratic Party starting to fight over whether or not Obamacare is a good move is actually kind of sort of scary to me. Because it makes people unsure. It makes people scared. It makes people not know whether they're coming or going when it comes to healthcare. It makes it so you got to fill out new forms, find new doctors, all these things that happen every time there's any kind of a shift in any area of healthcare is a giant precursor of that. I'm not fond of that. In an interview with the New York Times podcast, The Daily, Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat, openly attacked Obamacare. She said, I don't think we're going to succeed unless we have the movement work and the things that we're doing back home to connect it. When we disconnect, we end up with something like the Affordable Care Act, which people don't understand. Insurance companies were in a room drafting it, and I feel like if that happens, we won't succeed. Oh, really? Obamacare was a creation of insurance companies? This is not what you've been telling us in the past. Like I said, it'll be interesting.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
So yeah, like I said, the Democratic primaries are going to be a very, very interesting time. The Beto O'Rourkes of this world are going to get torn down for being too white, too male, and too privileged. And things like the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, will wind up in the crosshairs of Democrats looking to make moves for themselves. As we were discussing, Representative Rashida Tlaib, she trashed Obamacare. And in this interview, she was asked, don't many Democrats, including Obama himself, kind of consider the Affordable Care Act to be the brass ring of the Obama administration? Kind of like the landmark achievement, one for the history books. The big accomplishment of the Obama administration. And she said, yeah, I know. And that's the thing. We have winners and losers. Not everybody got helped. That's not how Barack sold it or what he's been saying since. As we warned during the debate over Obamacare, this was all incremental steps toward single payers, and the media attacked the right for predicting it. So, interesting times. And I don't like it when healthcare gets messed with. It's a scary prospect. And when you feel like you're doing all the right things, filling out all the right forms, going to the right doctors, trying to do all the things that you need to do to be able to take care of yourself, and our health becomes a political urination match as opposed to our health, it gets scary. It gets frightening. We feel out of control. And in many senses, we are. Which is why I wanted to bring this up to you. Since January, at the beginning of January, it is January. Since the beginning of January or so, you and I have been talking a little bit about health and fitness. I 100,000,000% advocate exercise as an antidepressant. I won't bore you with the details, especially if you listen to the show where we talked about it in the past, but I got back into shape over this past year just gone by. And I did so not because I needed to be in shape. It's not like I'm an athlete. It's not like I'm putting my body under physical stress that I need to be able to keep up with. I sit and talk for a living. But I got back into the gym to combat depression. Years ago, I had a shrink who said, "You're really badly depressed." I was like, "Yeah, I kind of felt that way." He was like, I'm going to give you two options. One is medication. Two is exercise. And I went, "I'll take the medication, please." And he went, "Nah, here's the thing. That could change your personality. I've heard your show. Changing your personality seems like it would be a bad thing, would it?" And I went, "Oh, yeah, the personality pays the mortgage. So just exercise, right?" And so I started exercising, and it's amazing. The mental change happened almost overnight. The physical changes, they take time and patience and consistency. But the mental change, for me, when it came to combating depression, happened, like I said, more or less overnight. So we've been talking about this on the show quite a bit recently, about how it's something that you can do for yourself. It's not easy, because getting off the couch and doing it isn't easy. Starting is the hardest part, I find. But it's something that's simple, that's reliable. And in a day and age where healthcare seems constantly up for grabs and we don't know, it's good to know about things that we can kind of sort of have influence over or control over. Which is why I wanted to share with you this story that illustrates that it's never too late. I think one of the things that I really, really like about health and fitness is that in an ever-changing world, health and fitness is predictable. At least in the old-fashioned way. Now, look, there's all sorts of diets and exercise regimes out there that say they're going to help you hack your biology and boost your metabolism and all this sort of stuff. And, maybe some of them work, maybe they don't. I don't know. I do know what does work, though, is math. Calories in, calories out. Exercise. Trying to put a little bit more weight on the bar every single time you go to the gym. Trying to crank out an extra rep of whatever it is. That's how you grow. And monitoring what you eat and monitoring the exercise that you're doing, this arms you with the tools to create some predictability in your life. I think that's what I like about it. Life has been so unpredictable over the last couple of years. For me personally, for everybody in America. And I won't bore you with the details, but I've had many, many instances over the last 12 to 24 months where I felt like life was absolutely spiraling out of control and there was nothing I could do about it. So I enjoyed going to the gym, and I enjoyed getting things like my weight and my body composition under control because it was predictable. The math of it is insurmountable. You want to lose some weight? You burn more calories than you eat. And it's just that simple. And it works. It's very reliable. And so I enjoy that aspect of it. Does that make sense? That certainty, that control. And you might feel out of control. You might feel like you've left it too late. You might feel like garbage. It's never too late for you to start to take control of your health. And there's never been a better time to do it than when there's a big question mark surrounding all of our healthcare in America moving forward. With the Republicans wanting to tear down everything Obama did, and with the Democrats wanting to tear down everything Obama did, one thing we know is things are going to be different moving forward. So how can we get some certainty in our life? Well, I want to share this story with you of an 86-year-old woman from Missouri who lost 120 pounds. How? By walking back and forth from her living room to her kitchen until she hit 3,000 steps, while also watching what she ate. Jessica Slaughter said that even as a kid in Mississippi, I was always the fattest kid in class. I got teased a lot. I didn't know how to stop eating fried chicken, bacon and eggs, desserts like cakes and pies. Bear in mind, this is an 86-year-old woman. She said that when her doctor told her she was pre-diabetic, she decided she needed to change the way she lives. She said that she walks 3,000 steps every morning before she stops. And you know what? 3,000 steps, it's significant, but it's not insurmountable. And you know what? Everybody's phone keeps track of their steps now, whether you want it to or not. Now never forget getting my phone the first time and being like, hey, you're so close to your goal. What's this little notification saying I'm close to my goal? Your goal is 10,000 steps. Is it really? I don't remember setting that. No, your phone 9 times out of 10 will do that whether you ask it to or not. So it's really easy to keep track of the number of steps you're walking. But she said that she walks 3,000 steps every morning before she stops. And her granddaughter even bought her a Fitbit to help her keep track of her health. You don't need it. The average phone will do it. But she also wants to tell other seniors to just get moving. Just make a start. Just move every single day, no matter how fast or no matter how slow. A lot of people say you don't slow down because you get old. You get old because you slow down. But you know what? If you start moving, no matter how fast or slow, you're making a start. The start is the most difficult part, I know. It took an absolute rock bottom moment, sheer desperation to get me back into the gym. I knew what exercise could do for my state of mind. I knew what it could do for me. But I didn't do it. Somehow I managed to forget. Somehow I managed to put it off. Somehow I managed to delay till I got to the point where I was more depressed than I'd ever been in my life. And I hadn't set foot in a gym in 4 years. And all it took was a start, getting moving, taking that first step, whether it's a literal or metaphorical step. That first step is the hardest, but it's the most significant. And that's why I guess I wanted to share the story of this woman with you. Let me remind you, she's 86. She lost 120 pounds. That's a whole other human being. A lot of people would say, you're 86 years old, you have 120 pounds to lose. It's not going to happen. It's too late. It is never too late. If it's not too late for her, if it's not too late for Jessica Slaughter, it is not too late for you. So there's lots of things that you can't control in your life. There's lots of questions about our healthcare. There's lots of questions about our political future. There's lots of questions about all this stuff. But bear in mind, there are things that you can do. There are things that you can do to win back control of your life and your environment and how your day is going to play out. Jessica Slaughter said, I want seniors to know, just because we've gotten to a certain age, we don't have to stop living. I want to tell them that there's a better way of life if they choose. And if we choose.
AD on the radio.
All right, then. In the time that you and I have left, let's you and I take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News, shall we? This is an interesting one. A company is selling $80 boxes of used tissues. Why? Well, why would you buy used tissues? Answer, you probably wouldn't. I don't think this story's going to change it. At least it didn't for me, but apparently there's enough of a market to where, well, the stuff is now for sale. I hate to call something the dumbest product in the world because I know something dumber will always come along, but right now, at this moment in time, on the 23rd of January, 2019, I feel like this is the dumbest product in the world. Fight me. A company called Vave, I think it's called. A company called Vave just started selling tissues that are already infested with germs. Like somebody else already sneezed into these tissues, then the company packages them up in a box and sells them to you for $80. Yeah, that's right. $80 for a box of used tissues. Somebody else's snot rags, a better part of a C note. They claim that using these tissues helps build up your immune system to get you ready for flu season. Or let you decide when you're going to intentionally give yourself the flu to get it out of the way. Yeah, you could give yourself the flu. That's part of their marketing message. Anyways, before you drop $80 on it, just know that the doctors are not on board. One doctor in Akron, Ohio said, quote, "That's bizarre. This seems like a total waste of money." You think? And one in Nashville said, quote, "This is potentially hazardous. If it does work, and I don't think that it does, I really hope this product is fake and it's all just a stunt." So there you have it. I mean, if you're going to infect yourself with a small amount of something, why not do it in the old-fashioned way? Flu shot. You ever gotten a flu shot? I got one once. I will never get one ever again. Not because I don't think they don't work, but you know how sometimes they produce adverse effects in people? Like, basically, I think the idea is you're getting a little bit of the flu. Well, the one time I got a flu shot was when I was going to visit a friend's newborn kid. And before you set foot into their house, they wanted everybody to have a flu shot, which seemed like a fair ask to me. So dutifully, in respect of my friends and their child, I decided to get a flu shot before I met the baby. Got the flu shot and got sicker than I've ever gotten in my entire life. It was a miserable, miserable week. And unless somebody else with a newborn kid asked me to get a flu shot, or unless I have a newborn kid and I decide that I need a flu shot, no thank you very much, never again. But a lot of people swear by them. Ooh, this is interesting. Hear about the petition? Hear about the petition for the replay? As unjust as the ending of the NFC Championship game was, I think we all know there's not going to be a do-over. I mean, let's be real here. When it comes to being paragons of moral virtue, the NFL isn't especially high on anybody's list. So the giant oopsie that they were a part of, it's not like they've done a lot of things to make a lot of their other wrongs right, and we don't see them doing a lot to make this wrong right. The LA Rams are, of course, going to the Super Bowl. And the kids in various countries around the world are already proudly wearing their New Orleans Saints NFC Championship baseball caps. But the people of New Orleans aren't giving up without a fight. Somebody started a petition on change.org to make the Saints and the Rams replay the game this coming Sunday. There's a goal of 1 million signatures, and as of last night, they had almost 700,000. I mean, just because they hit their goal of 1 million signatures to have the NFC Championship game replayed doesn't mean it's going to happen. I don't think the NFL care. And there's a lot of other severe wrongs that they haven't done anything to right, so why would this be any different? Meanwhile, a Louisiana lawyer who calls himself the strong arm of the law has filed a civil lawsuit against the NFL. And a businessman from the state put up billboards saying the Saints got robbed. and he's putting them up in Atlanta, where the Super Bowl is taking place. So, there you go. Black Panther. Oh, this is a bit of a landmark for a superhero movie. Black Panther is the first superhero movie to be up for Best Picture. Yeah, the Academy announced the Oscar nominations the other day. The Netflix black and white Spanish language movie Roma and the 18th century period piece The Favorite were tied for the most with 10 nominations each. By the way, how amazing is it that Netflix black and white Spanish language movie Roma is up for 10 Oscar nominations. Netflix was this service a couple of years ago that they're the biggest thing that there is now in terms of networks. This is where all the high-minded, artistically sound stuff gets done, as well as the flashy blockbusters. And just a few years back, it was a service where you could get a DVD and they would mail you another one when you were done with it. Incredible. Unbelievable what it's become. And a lesson to all of us that the playing field is now more level than it's ever been before. There will always be advantages given to large companies with lots of money, but if you want to be a disruptor, if you want to shake things up, if you are creative, and if you have gumption, it's more of a thing for you to pull it off now than it ever has been in the past. It's inspiring stuff to me when I look at what Netflix has become. 10 Oscar nominations. But anyways, both Roma and The Favorite are nominated for Best Picture. So Roma gives Netflix its first ever Best Picture nomination, but let's be honest, these titles don't mean much to casual mainstream movie fans. Fortunately, the Academy did nominate some movies you've heard of. This has been the thing in the past. The Oscars have caught a lot of flack for being all artsy-fartsy and high-minded and nominating these movies that no one really saw and overlooking blockbusters. This time, not so much. The Academy did nominate some of the movies that you've heard of or maybe even saw. A Star is Born and the Christian Bale movie Vice about Dick Cheney were also dominant. Both were nominated 8 times. And Black Panther, first superhero movie ever up for Best Picture. Black Panther got 7 nominations. These 3 were also nominated for Best Picture, and Black Panther has become, like I said, the first superhero movie ever to be nominated in the category. Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Green Book are also up for Best Picture. For what it's worth, I don't know if this is a decent predictor of anything, but Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody took home the top awards at the Golden Globes earlier this month. And as expected, Lady Gaga got a Best Actress nod for A Star is Born. She's up against Golden Globe winner Glenn Close, who I don't think has ever won an Oscar before as much as she's been nominated. Olivia Colman from The Favorite. Melissa McCarthy for Can You Even Ever Forgive Me? Bradley Cooper also got a Best Actor nomination for A Star is Born. He's up against Golden Globe winner Rami Malek, who played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, Christian Bale in Vice, Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, and Viggo Mortensen in Green Book. So there you have it. Bradley was not nominated, by the way, for Best Director for A Star is Born, which some people consider a major snub. On the plus side, Spike Lee finally landed his first Best Director nomination for Black Klansman. Other big snubs were the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? A lot of people expected it to run away with Best Documentary Feature. I saw it. It was probably the only documentary that I saw in theaters all year long, but I thought it was amazing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Do yourself a favor. Anyways, that is it for me. Thank you so much for hanging. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. Later.